Another car dog garage video. I want to try this. And today, guys, I'm going to be showing you how to weld, or in my particular case, MIG welding. And there's a few different types of welding. There's MIG welding, there's TIG welding, there's stick welding, and there's a few more types, but those are the main basic ones. So there's a few basic principles that you need to do so you can have a better weld. One of those principles is clean metal. Weld conducts better with clean metal. If you have rusty metal, it's not going to weld as well. And you need clean metal for a clamp, a ground clamp. Because essentially what happens is you clamp it and it's shoving a lot of electricity, which creates heat, and you heat up the rod in the middle, or for MIG welding, and it joins kind of like a bubble to the metal. And if you regularly just join it this way, it's not going to turn out too well. It's going to bubble, it's going to have air in it, and that's why you have gas. And on almost all MIG welders, you have this tank of gas right here. This flows out of the nozzle with the wire and kind of creates a little cover for air. And if you have a fan going or wind, the gas isn't going to get to it and you'll end up with a lot of porosity. Few different things to know. You have voltage. You can adjust your voltage depending on how thick your metal is, how much heat you put into the weld here. If you put too much heat in the weld, you're just gonna blow it out. You're gonna blow the metal apart and it's not going to weld. If you have too little, it's not going to join good enough. And if you do not have a clean metal, it will not join well. If you do not have a good ground, it will not join well, and it won't be a strong weld. And there's a few different patterns that you can do. There's a pattern, you can just go straight across, which doesn't really give you a good amount of strength and doesn't look good. You can go back and forth, which kind of helps it and kind of joins it, but you kind of leave the bubble behind you a bit. So that's why you do circles. The bubble will form better if you do circles. Now, let me show you the difference between straight, back and forth, and circles. And circles brings me to the term called stacking dimes, a welder's term that goes through stick welding and MIG welding, and it literally will look like you're stacking a bunch of dimes. So now let me show you the three differences between the welds. So this is not really good representation, but this is a straight weld. This is a kind of structural one, but not really. This is a back and forth weld. That weld is kind of good for corners, but it doesn't really hold up in strength. And this one, it kind of fell apart, but I'll show you some more of that. But this is the circles. And if you look, you can see some of the copper stripes, and it kind of looks like you're stacking a bunch of dimes. But these three types of welds, your heat is dependent on your thickness. And right here, we've got a gauge to see how thick the metal is. And you can see on the welder, you got 20 or 22 gauge, 18 gauge, 16 gauge, 14. And you can go in that range, or you can go slower and faster. See, this metal is 14 gauge. Actually, sorry. This is 16 gauge metal. And so I have it a little lower because I go a little slower. And if you see that color right there, that is some good color. You just do straight, it doesn't really penetrate into it. If you go back and forth, the heat doesn't penetrate as well. But if you do circles, you can see the heat penetrates farther and it has a better weld. And so, circles is the best pattern to do. So now let me show you what conjoining two pieces of metal looks like with circles. And this is going to look better, I guess. Another thing to note is when you're welding, you want to be in a comfortable position and you want to support your arm or the welding torch so you can be consistent. If you're up here, then you're all shaky and you can't really follow a pattern well. So if you put your arm down like this, then you can have a more consistent weld and it will be more even. So one thing to note also, that's what I see when I watch some shows of people first learning to weld. They have their arms up here and they go like this and they get very lost. And then if you look at someone, their movements are very consistent and they can control the torch better. So as you can see, here are a few different welds. If you go too slow, then you'll just burn through the metal. But this is not really a good piece of metal to show you on because it is very thin. So this is really not a good representation because this metal is very thin and it's kind of pushing it down. The weld is kind of pushing it down. Let me show you some better metal to show. So this is a gate that I have welded together myself. And let me show you what a good weld looks like. It looks like right there. It looks like you're stacking a bunch of dimes right there. That is a good weld because it goes from corner to corner, corner to corner, and it's even. That is one of my best welds so far. And it kind of right here too, you can see that it kind of looks like it's a bunch of dimes stacked on each other. And this, if you have all your heat right, your precision right, and all that, you can put out decent welds that look pretty good. I'm nowhere near my dad yet. My dad has like 30 years of experience on me, but I am still learning. And if what you really need to do is practice welding. You just need to practice and just weld and weld and weld until you figure out these basic principles for yourself. And once you use some of my tips and all that, you can become a good welder too. So thank you for watching. This video didn't turn out the best, but it's still something. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe. Share this video with Share this video with people that may be interested in this type of content. Subscribe to Car Dog Garage to see the next video, and I will see you later. Eventually, there's going to be videos on this 1956 build and this 1968 build, so stay tuned.